Oh, wow.
You're gone.
Hey, Eyes of the Nile, Iron Maiden tribute group that I fell in love with the moment I saw. Please welcome to my humble home here. Thrilled to have you guys.
Thank you so much.
Really
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Representing too. Nice. Guys, let's talk about Iron Maiden since we've heard of them before.
Who's that again?
Yeah, right. I bought their first album when it first came out. It had to be 1980, and I could say that I could play the entire album probably about a week later. I had immersed myself in it as everyone did. You know, tell me about the first time you guys first were introduced to Iron Maiden.
Well, for lack of stepping on each other, do we want to kind of go in a specific order? Maybe.
Yeah, you go first.
Oh, well, hello.
You just
hello.
volunteered yourself.
Yeah, there it is. So, hello, everybody. I'm Fern, and I play bass in the Iron Maiden tribute band, Eyes of the Nile. Very lucky to do so. I'm 12 years old again, and that's right about when I actually was introduced to Iron Maiden, and that was through some friends of mine. And it was the same evening I had been into Guns N' Roses was my actual gateway band into rock and metal, because before then I just
what year was this? Just some stuff.
this was 1988.
Go ahead.
1987 into 88. So Guns N' Roses, I was introduced to them when they were brand new. Before then I was just listening to pop radio, but then 1988 came around and my friends started getting into metal, and it was the big four plus like everybody else at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, Testament, Overkill, Nuclear Assault, and and Metallica being, and Maiden being my favorites. But for Maiden, it was, I think it was Somewhere in Time, Number of the Beast, and then like Metallica, Master of Puppets, like all in that same evening of hanging out. So, and hence my love for the Somewhere in Time album, and Seventh Son, actually, which is a separate conversation. But that was my introduction into Iron Maiden, and I had only. I'd been a musician, but more in the grade school bands as a clarinet and saxophone player. That evening was the start of my wanting to play, rock and roll instruments like guitar, drums, and basically that led me right into bass. Like almost moments after I started picking up a guitar, for some reason bass hit me, and here I am to tell you about it.
The big awakening.
Yeah.
Nice. What about you, brother?
I don't know who you're talking to.
Yeah, either one.
We're all brothers.
You're all brothers.
Chris, you go first.
Me?
Yeah,
you.
I don't even know which album was first for me. I think it was around 80, a little earlier, maybe 84-ish. But I just remember having Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, and Power Slave all at the same time. And then I went backwards. And I drew all the covers. After I did my homework, I would draw the covers from the cassette cover. But I grew up, not wanting to be a drummer by any means. Actually, that wasn't even, I liked playing drums as a hobby, but I was going to be an architect. And so drums became a little bit more of a thing. I started playing with other musicians. And like we talked about before, kind of just, your love of it can come from just playing, not practicing scales and, exercises, but playing with people and playing music that you love. And that's how it started. And so anyway, the short story of my musical life is I went to college to, I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be Neil Peart. So I went to college to learn some classical stuff so I would know how to, read music and play mallet instruments and, play the glockenspiel on the side of the drum set like Neil Peart did. And then during my college days, I fell in love with classical music and then wanted to be a classical musician doing the rock thing on the side. And that's what I do now. So I do both. But Maiden has always been, through my whole life, they've been my favorite metal band, even though there are albums that I just hate. And we've talked about this on other podcasts. Yeah. Our friends have a podcast called Somewhere in Time podcast, and we talked about Fear of the Dark and Number of the Beast. Anyway. But yeah, they will always be my favorite metal band. And that's pretty much how it all started for me. It was a little bit earlier, maybe 84, 85 with Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, Power Slave in that area.
Nice. And Daniel, for you?
Well, the first album that was out actually was oh shit, it was Brave New World. My first album was Live After Death, though.
Okay.
That's the one I got. That was like, it was the same around the same time as 2001. So I was probably like 13, and I had just gotten into Metallica and stuff, and not much to it other than as soon as I heard it, I was like, this is this is my kind of shit. So yeah, it was like 2001 ish. Rock in Rio was I got the DVD, from
Wow.
Best Buy, and
Mhm.
fell in love with it. And still, that's one I probably watch if I'm watching Maiden live. I think Rock in Rio from 2000, is it 2001 maybe, around then, that I still might be still my favorite, even though I love Live After Death. That's still in some ways is my favorite live album they did.
That's epic.
Probably nostalgic purposes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jason, and you?
Yeah, my story isn't as romantic. I mean, I don't even know like when. I don't have like a very clear like, oh my God, this is the time when I started liking Iron Maiden. It was probably like, damn, like I'm, a child of like the internet. Like that's when, I was like 15, 16 or whatever when we were all like using the internet for the first time and like downloading music and stuff like that. And like um I was into guitar by that point and buying like guitar magazines, and I remember seeing like ads for like Brave New World and Rock in Rio, and I had always just like heard of Iron Maiden just through pop culture and stuff. And then I don't know, I don't, like I said, I don't really know like a clear like definitive point, but um I think I just downloaded like an Iron Maiden song one day. I was like, okay, let's see what this band is about, and I just loved it like right away. Yeah, like, it's like the most lame thing ever. I
Whatever
fired that
works.
song. And just,
Well,
Whatever gets you
when I
there.
was younger, I remember thinking like in my head, because I didn't really know either of them. I used to put like, I was like, oh yeah, like Grateful Dead and Iron Maiden. That's kind of like the same sort of thing. I had no idea.
Yeah. So like
You're gonna
I
use
think I
that
just
against you at some point.
Wow.
So.
Yeah,
That
Like,
probably speaks to the generational gap or
it's
the
Oh,
span within
absolutely.
the span within the band, you know.
I mean, coming home from middle school, and thank God for MTV back then, you saw the Flight of Icarus video, them playing
Yeah.
in the studio. You saw Run to the Hills. You saw the Trooper. You're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know?
Yeah, you're right about that, that they did get what we would consider now mainstream airplay and attention, and especially on the big medium at the time, MTV.
Yeah.
I saw them
crazy.
open for Judas Priest.
My sister went to see them too. Killers tour.
Yeah.
She
Okay.
didn't see Maiden though, because she was a Priest fan, so she came late and
That's that
didn't
sucky
see
opening,
Maiden.
man.
Couldn't believe it. So sorry, when was that? What concert was that? Or what tour?
I think that I don't know. I think Priest was on the Screaming for Vengeance tour.
Oh, so it could have been around the same time.
Yeah, or maybe even later. That might have been a Number of the
Maybe Number of
Beast
the
area
Beast.
for them
Yeah.
before they were headlining. Because one of the things about Iron Maiden, as far as my world's concerned, is that they were one of the few bands ever that owned their own PA system. They owned their own sound system, and they owned two. They had one in Europe and they had one in America. And the company that I worked at was the company where they stored their PA. It was a Turbo Sound TMS3 system. And when Iron Maiden wasn't using it, it was out on the road with Frank Sinatra. So it was the funny balance of the Maiden PA. It's like, where's the Maiden PA today? It's out with Sinatra. I used to take it out with Tony Bennett.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
That was my only I had friends that toured with them back in the 80s. Buddy of mine, one of his jobs was to man the eddy and squeeze the fire extinguishers and and do all that crap. And
if there's any remnants or any props lying around, please let us know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're all long gone from then. But he was with them when they did Behind the Iron Curtain.
Oh man.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Too fuzzy. Can't see.
That's the point.
back in the day. So let's jump forward, man. We all love the Iron Maiden. When did this come as a concept? Where was the origin of putting this band together?
So a friend of mine that I play with in a local cover band was scouring Craigslist for a singer for that band, our cover band. And he would send me different ads that people put on Craigslist for different things if I was interested. And one was from a local singer who was looking to form an Iron Maiden tribute band. Maybe it was like Bruce era or focusing on Bruce or something like that. And I remember thinking, okay, well, this guy doesn't know either. He doesn't know what he's talking about, or he actually does, and he can do it. So I started asking him questions about, you know, do you have any? How long have you been singing? And all, I was just drilling him right away
Sure.
because I just want to get to the bottom of it instead of, if you're in a band looking for another musician, there's a lot of people out there who you don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Don't we know?
So anyway, you don't know who you're talking to because on Craigslist, when you start emailing, you just see a jumbled, scrambled address.
Oh, it's a reach in the dark.
Yeah. But this guy, like right away, sent me an audio thing. I asked him if he had any vocal or, any recordings of him singing Maiden. It's like, no, I don't have any of Maiden, but I'll make you something. And then he immediately sent me the chorus of Flight of Icarus from his car. I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So I pressed play and I was like, holy shit. Like he just sang it off the cuff into his phone, sent it to me. And I was like, okay, he can really do this. So I'm like, do you think you can make it through a whole show singing like that? And, just all these questions. And he ends up asking me, oh, so what about you? Like, who do you play with? And I said, Dr. Fu, which is the local cover band I play with, and the Navy band, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, this is Naveed from Iris Divine. I love you guys. And I know this guy. Like, I actually knew who this person was, but
wow.
Since through the Craigslist thing, you can't tell.
Right.
I had no idea that I knew the person I was talking to and drilling with all these questions.
And never heard Sing in the Car before.
Right. I just knew him through local shows, seeing him around, and that was really it. So we talked more, and he came over with the guy who sent me the Craigslist ad from Dr. Fu. We jammed once or twice. The guitarist didn't feel he could hang, so he kind of bowed out gracefully. And then we started. We had a bassist for a night who tried, and he wasn't interested or something. So that's kind of where it started. And then the first person we got after that, I think there was a different guitarist in the band. And then it was our bassist, Jonathan, and I think Daniel, right?
I was there when John tried out. I was there
because you were already there.
I was the one. I brought Josh in, and then
I brought Josh in. Okay,
Jason in. Once the Josh thing blew up, yeah.
Right. So before Jason, there was another guitarist who lasted about a year or so, and then we got Jason, and then eventually our older bassist pursued his real estate business, and then we got Fern.
Which there's actually videos of us playing 2 songs at our old bassist's wedding.
Yeah,
yeah. Love to see
that ended on good terms, obviously.
Well, we commandeered the equipment of the wedding band, which the guitarist seemed the guitars seem very unhappy with me because I mean, look at me. You don't want me touching your gear, but
Yeah.
it sounded like shit, but it was fun.
Oh, yeah, playing
that's
Maiden on a
great.
like a 4-piece little bebop kit was pretty interesting.
in like
Yeah.
and like a
People
full
loved
suit.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, people were already drunk, so yeah.
Yeah, they loved it.
It was super awesome.
Yeah.
So that's
But yeah,
basically
shit.
the formation of that band. And since Fern joined in Halloweenish, Halloween was his first gig of
2019.
2019.
Oh yeah, right before COVID shit.
Yeah, so we had that
We're
one
ready
gig.
to go.
Yeah,
for real.
seriously. Because it was
We were
like Eyes of
feeling
the
good.
Nile .2 at that point, and
Yeah.
then that happened. So yeah,
Well,
An
guys,
amazing show at Tally Ho, and then COVID right after.
tell me about
Yeah.
your first gig.
that was down the street from my
Oh.
house at a place called Fat Tuesdays.
Yeah,
And we all
that's
had to
right.
line up next to each other because the stage was
Yeah.
so narrow,
In
front to
there.
back.
Yeah.
So we literally were all just standing next to each other.
Yeah.
But it
That's
was fun.
awesome.
I remember there was actually a great crowd, and it was fun.
How long of a set list did you have when you first started out?
Good question. I don't remember.
Were you doing an hour?
No.
The
No.
first show might have been like 45 minutes.
Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
All right, that's rock solid. When did you have the moment where you're standing in the room and you're looking at each other? It's like, okay, we really got this now. Like this has really come together. Like when did that happen for you?
For me, it
It's about
happened in rehearsal.
2 months ago.
What time is it?
I knew in rehearsal, like when we first started playing together, because it's one of those things where it's like some things aren't really worth pursuing if you don't think it's going to be good enough.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'd never thought in a million years it would. I don't know. I mean, I guess I did in a way, but when you play with high caliber musicians and you're playing hard songs and they end up being kind of easy to put together because everyone can handle it.
Yeah.
It's not over people's heads, I guess. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, well, you
So
said it all about the people in the room and the guys that you're playing with. It's one thing that it's a bunch of professionals that show up. You got to be there at 4:00. They put the sheets down. We're going to do rehearsal for 6 hours, and everyone's going to leave. And it's another thing to have a band where you got to hang. It's not only that you need guys that are good, but you need to be good to get along and have the same vision.
I was just going to say that
what the project is. I'm sure that we've all been there where we're with someone who's an amazing musician, but Jesus Christ, I can't be with this guy for 5 more minutes.
Oh, dude,
yeah.
For X, Y, and Z reasons.
Luckily in this band, I'll probably jinx it because no, we've been lucky enough that it's been like that since day one, I think. And
Well,
luckily,
I'm easily the biggest asshole, but I'm nice. I'm a sweetheart, and I'm the biggest asshole in the band. So we're
He's a
doing all
sweet
right
asshole.
there has to be one in every
I'm a
band.
sweet
So
asshole.
We needed one.
It has to be one.
Out.
No, we actually all get along and we all hang out when we can.
Yeah,
And
we
we'll have
always
dinner.
say to each other too, we're like we all feel so blessed and grateful that we all get along so well, and like we're actually like really great friends. Like outside of the band, like we're always chatting with each other and sending memes and stuff like that to each other.
I
like
love that. That's awesome.
It's really, it's pretty awesome.
Yep.
So guys, tell me about when you felt that the gigs were getting better for you and you're getting more attention.
When the stages started having like backdrops on them and stuff, like for real. Like, so like we definitely played some like shows. Like there's a place in DC called the Pinch. I mean, it was like literally like a basement.
Worse than the 930 Club was?
No.
I think it was pretty close to the 930 Club, but not like it wasn't the 930 Club by any means. It was just like a dirty old basement. There was like no stage. I mean, it was literally like the crowd was standing in front of you.
What you mean is when Naveed stopped booking them. That's
right.
We already went. I didn't even go there yet. Wow.
Yeah, we
Yep.
always joke around that every time we played the crappy
Well-
gigs, it was Naveed that booked them. Yeah.
I admire the fact that he's willing to play them. I just don't want to play them.
Yeah, you save
Like, I applaud-
15% from the agent.
I applaud his desire to play anywhere that will have us.
Yeah.
But there are some places that will have us that, you know, I mean,
He won't watch this anyway, so go ahead.
oh no, it's not even about him. I'm saying, I'm like, I actually, well, because we all, well, I guess not all, but me and Naveed definitely, and maybe Jason, kind of come from, like, we play in original metal bands where you pretty much have to just take anything that comes along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any shithole that'll have you,
Yep.
you just
Yeah.
take it.
Right.
So
that's
that
it.
was kind of his mentality. So that's why some of those, but yeah, I mean, I don't regret playing those, but you definitely find the venues where it's like, whoa, never again there.
Yeah,
the
and
one
it's like
swinging light bulb from the ceiling.
Yeah, we definitely
Yeah,
have played
yeah.
those types of places.
Where
you
you're
got to
not
start
sure
somewhere.
if the floor, you're not sure if the floor will hold you or not. Those. You're like, ooh,
Yeah.
this part of the stage is mushy. Don't step here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like
everyone should
any
have those
band
gigs.
that starts out has to like
Yeah.
play those kind of gigs for sure. But for me, like in terms of like when we felt like we kind of like, oh wow, this is really starting to gain momentum, I think is when I literally had to drive like hours to go somewhere. Like we went to Virginia Beach, which for us is like could be like 3 or 4 hours away. And I was like, man, we're like staying in hotels like overnight to go play places. And I was like, this is not like anything I've done in other bands before. So it's just been like, you know, local dive bars and stuff. So that, at least for me, like I've always just played like regular, just original metal, just playing like local little metal gigs and stuff. So that's when it really felt like, okay, this is like really starting to pay off and people are noticing us and everything. And yeah, it was cool.
It's nice to play music that people want to hear, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I when in the 80s, I was a bass player in a heavy metal band and we toured. That's all we did for 22 months, a perpetual gig to gig to gig. And there was several occasions where we got booked someplace that did not want us there. And it was not cool with us opening with Ride the Lightning. You
Oh
know,
man.
and you could imagine 1987 country western bar not being happy about that kind of shit. So I dig it about being in the doing the horrible gigs. Did a gig in Grundy, Virginia, where they had a hitching post out front, you know, to tie your horse up. I mean,
But there's a difference between, like, when you play in cover bands. You know, I've been doing it in this area for 20 years now, and there's usually built-in audiences, and you know,
Yep.
everyone comes out because they know it's going to be a good time, and they drink, and you know, sometimes your background music to a point, but a lot of the time they're up there partying with you. But this is completely different, and I wasn't privy to the metal scene in the area before this band, like, at all. I had like no contacts. I didn't know any venues where we would be playing at all. It was just like local bars and clubs that have cover bands. So with this kind of thing, it's, you know, the people that are coming to see you. They're paying actual money for a ticket to see you. And I don't know if that means they're coming to judge you because they're like, who the hell do they think they are playing Iron Maiden music? But I think it's just that it's a different kind of mentality versus, you know, people are going to be there no matter what. Now they're there to see you, whether or not they're there to judge you. I don't think of it like that, honestly, but it's nice,
But more
because
so
now
because
like,
it's a
wow.
show. A little more judgy, but that's expected, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah, you're
people are paying to see you because they want to see you. So
you're gonna always
the end of
have
the
the
day,
folded arms club at the back.
it's never
The
been
f-
like that, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's
It's
good.
just that they're paying money to see you now.
Yeah,
And wow, now there's 200 people paying to see us. That's a great feeling.
yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
I think it's a really super gratifying because it's proof positive that there's an appetite for it, and that thankfully we're somehow able to answer the mail on that. right? And because we believe in it and we have a great time on and off stage together. But I think that radiates and we send it to the crowd and the crowd is there with us. And it's kind of like what you opened up the conversation with earlier, right? I think maybe before you hit record, but we're fans first. And the way I see this thing is that like we're not necessarily this set of musicians on stage lofty above anybody. We're just having all the same conversation about our favorite band that we're celebrating. We just happen to be the ones talking with the instruments in our hands, but while we're singing it, we're really singing along to something greater, that is the music of Iron Maiden, right?
Absolutely.
And people notice that.
Yeah,
People actually notice that.
Going back to my world, at what point did you say, "Hey, you know, we're going to need a road crew. We need some assistance. We need some lighting. We need some
that would be me.
We're still working on that. Yeah.
Well,
do you interested in the job?
Well, I am semi-retired at the moment.
Well, I mean, it's the title of your podcast. I mean, come on, you got to live up to it.
Absolutely. Well, I'll say this. I love playing, and I used to love mixing bands, and I stopped mixing at some point when I became the guy that had to provide solutions and answers to things, and I couldn't be chained to the console anymore, and that I'll say about that. But I'm so fascinated, and I'm so fascinated by all of these tribute bands that I see rising around the country. And I say this, nobody is creating live entertainment for people between the ages of 45 and 65, right? It's this huge void. If you're in that age group and you want to go out with your wife on a Saturday night, where are you spending your entertainment dollars? There's nowhere to go. Now, if I had an option to go see an Iron Maiden tribute band, bet your ass I'd get in the car and go. But I live in Catskill National Park here in the middle of nowhere, Woodstock, New York. Well, we've got plenty of nightclubs down the street, and I'm sure there's terrific stuff happening there, but certainly not a cover band. I mean, the thing too that's interesting about where you guys live, because God knows I used to play all over Virginia, is that this thing about going out and seeing cover bands and being in a cover band, it's like it only exists to a certain line in the country, and then it drops off and doesn't exist. Like it doesn't happen in New York, Boston, like this whole area, like where I grew up in Cleveland. It just is not the same vibe, not the same thing. It just isn't. Like once you get to Virginia and all the way down to South Florida, there is a scene, and there's clubs, and there's people that come out to see it and come out to support it. Some more than others in other places, but you guys are in the right place in the right time, and doing the right thing.
It's interesting too because I'm actually from Staten Island, New York, and I lived there until I was 27. And I miss it. Yeah. I loved it there because I had so many, I grew up with so many amazing people, and I love and miss everybody back there. And that includes a lot of musicians as I was coming up. And, we would play our gigs, and it was definitely a different energy. It was, you play the gigs, you had these amazing musicians around you, but, it was almost like it was a little tougher to draw a real crowd that would be, and the people that were there had a great time, great people, they talked to you and all this other stuff, but it was definitely at a different level when it came to Virginia. And I got here in 2006, and I got here thinking, well, I'd love to do the cover band thing again, but not sure if it's going to be, what it's going to be like and whatever. And I was extremely surprised. So to your point, Virginia, I guess being one of the northernmost points on the East Coast that has this sort of a scene, but even the top 40 scene is insane. And I don't know what it is about that, because the caliber of musicians anywhere is awesome. It's just a matter of what that locale is like, and what the culture is like there. It just happens to be amazing here. We're very lucky.
You're crushing it, bro, because a friend of mine put together a yacht rock group, right? Which, we could all vomit in our mouths a little bit just saying it, but put together a yacht rock group, and it was so successful that he made two more. And he has three different bands under the same name, playing multiple corporate this and corporate that, and like the kind of money they're making per night. Like it's like, yeah, I just can't even wrap my head around these numbers. And it just goes back to, there's an age group of people in this country that don't have entertainment options, and the corporate thing, it goes back to age group as well too.
I had a friend on Facebook post something recently that said, I have to ask, what's with the tribute bands lately? Why are there so many? And I had to chime in, of course. But I thought it was an interesting question, because there are a lot, and there are a lot that play in this area at the same venues, and it got me thinking a little bit too. But I think it's one of those things where, well, some of the bands don't exist anymore, so how are you going to get that music in? Yes, okay, it's not the same people, but some people don't care.
Don't care at all.
No one's pretending, which is another side to this too. It's like, okay, well, we're obviously not pretending to be Iron Maiden by wearing spandex and weird outfits on stage and trying to look like Bruce, and some people do. Yep. Some people try to look like Motley Crue, and you can argue, okay, why bother? You're not Motley Crue. I don't need you to look like them. I would rather you sound like them than look like them and sound like shit. Could talk about this forever, but I think it's a good conversation.
I think it's an age thing too. Like, okay, so a lot of the guys that grew up loving the bands, as far as like, oh, why are so many popping up? It's like, well, because when they were 20, they were probably playing in the original bands, and they thought they were going to be the next Metallica or whatever. And then later, they've got other shit going on, but still want to play music. And a tribute is way more fun to do live and less time consuming in a lot of ways than trying to do your own original thing. So the age range of the guys in the tribute bands is usually a little older.
Yeah.
So I think part of it's that.
You're playing your favorite music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there.
Back to the shared fan experience. And, would you rather go see a Motley Crue tribute band, or you want to go see out of shape, Vince Neil, unable to remember the words?
That's an interesting conversation too.
I mean,
yeah.
My opinion is that if you're taking somebody's money, you're taking money from them, then you should deliver. You should deliver the best product that you can, and
that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, it certainly shows. Now, I got more things to ask you.
Sure.
Where do you see this going overall?
Nowhere. This is the end right here after this podcast.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Our farewell.
That's all time we have.
Thanks for coming along on the ride.
Tell Naveed.
And I say that because I recently, I have friends of mine that do a Pink Floyd group in Ohio, and they're called Wish You Were Here. And they are fantastic. They got the giant pig, they build the wall. I mean, it's an awesome, epic production. And I was their sound man like in 1990, back when it was a much smaller thing. And, the budget was whatever, drinking the Pink Floyd show in the nightclubs. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? The Pink Floyd band.
Where do we find ourselves?
Where do we see it going?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Where do you see it going? Because that's what it was. Is that I saw that they were playing a concert series at a state fairground, some funnel cake shit. And I saw the schedule for the year there, right? What the schedule was. And it was something that I used to do when I lived in Cleveland, something that used to be like the Eddie Moneys and the, these kind of like B rock star shit that comes around to the funnel cake tour every summer. But now I'm looking at the, who's playing there, and it's all It's all tribute bands.
Yeah.
It's all tribute bands from top to bottom. Someone's doing a Neil Young show. I mean, I was just blown away by it.
What's the name of the festival again?
I'd have to
Because I did inquire to a festival in Ohio recently. Someone told us about this place would need to be playing out there near Cleveland.
Oh my God. Northern Ohio, where I'm from, has a big love for this kind of thing, especially for especially for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it might be the same one. And Four
We
Horsemen, you
did-
probably heard of them, the Metallica tribute. They're
Yep.
from that area. So
We did a funnel cake bullshit thing, to use your words, in New York. What was that one called?
Well,
The funnel cake
Orange
bullshit.
County Fair.
rock,
Orange County Fair, yeah.
rock
that's-
fantasy.
Yeah, that's even south of me. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was
okay.
with Chris Caffrey from Sabotage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
That's awesome.
He sat in with us. So yeah, it was fun.
That was a great day.
That's awesome. So as you guys are moving along and your things picking up speed and you're selling more tickets, now are you getting better booking agents? Are you getting better offers? Like, how are you seeing everything move forward for you?
Anyone else want to take this?
Deech, that's
Yeah.
you, brother. That's all you. You know it.
Well, right now it's little old me booking the gigs. 99.9% of them. We don't have an actual agent. We've talked to a couple people. So until that happens, it's me just trying to do it the best I can. And the way it works is a lot of places, if it's coming from a musician in the band, a lot of venues don't just respond to that. They just respond to agents.
It's kind of like trying to get a credit card. It's like you need credit to get credit, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
you know we're
It's
sort of
great.
in that weird catch-22.
It's so weird because I'll always send them, instead of talking about ourselves and everything, I'm just like, just check us out. This is a link. This tells you everything you need to know. And sometimes, people will respond and they sound enthusiastic. And sometimes, like out of the blue, this gig that we're doing in July, we're opening up for Quiet Riot. And that had no idea what this thing was. Someone called me on the phone and said, we want to book you at this festival if you're interested. It's a 2-day long thing, bands all day. And there's 2 stages. One band plays, they finish, the next band's ready to go on the other stage, back and forth. And we play on one stage, and then Quiet Riot plays at the end of the night on one of the nights. That was the easiest gig we ever got. I mean, everything about the gig with money and hotel and the whole thing, me not even asking, just them calling me, looking us up ahead of time, not me trying to sell ourselves. So
Yeah, I feel like some of our coolest gigs were definitely just like random people reaching out to us in some way. Like we definitely put in the work, or Chris puts in the work to find gigs. But there are some places that we play where like someone in the area will just be like, hey, you should try and play this club, and we'll reach out to the club. But sometimes we'll just have people like, hey, what are you guys doing in October or whatever, and then they'll just call us.
That's how the Orange County thing happened in New York.
Yeah,
They found out about us and they knew about the Iron Maidens, and they wanted us, and so we booked that gig. And then a couple days later he's like, I don't know if you know who Chris Caffrey is, but would you mind if he sat in for a couple songs? And I knew who he was because I was always a massive Sabotage fan. And I'm like, yeah, no problem.
King, baby.
So we actually played a couple of Maiden songs and a Sabotage song.
Which one?
Strange Wings.
Nice. Good choice.
This video. So, and that whole thing was just from the owner of the festival or the fair that found us and contacted us. So
we also have like I don't know if this has actually gone through yet, but we've actually had people come to our shows that own a place or like have connections to a place. Like very recently, we just played at Tally Ho in Leesburg, and then after the show, this lady came up to us and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm like a part of some group down in Florida, and we have like a pre 70,000 tons of metal cruise party that we would love to have you guys play. We were like, yeah, dude, we'll go down to Miami and play. Like, that hasn't like gone through or anything, but like we like exchanged phone numbers and stuff. So it's very random, but most of the shows is just like us doing the legwork and just like reaching out to people and
Florida's the
praying that
final
we get
frontier.
something. So, and we've tried the agent thing a couple times too, but just like we always sign up for the agent thing and then they just never call back and just like ghost us.
Well, there's
So
a couple reasons for that. Number one, that they were incompetent, and number two is that they didn't see the value. Because here's the thing: nobody wants in this business wants to be your friend. They want to make money off you,
absolutely.
and that's the first and the last end of the fucking story. And if nobody thinks they can make money off you, they don't want to hear about it. But now you're on the internet, and now you got these YouTube videos, and now people are seeing that you're playing better gigs, and now you could clearly see what the show is. I mean, it's not like when I was a musician and my agent was sending out our 8x10 you know, the little
Glossy.
promo thing, the glossy,
Old school press kit, yeah.
and how that was. But even then, he found a way to get us gig to gig.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you just send a link and that shows this is what we do live.
Yeah.
It's not, us talking highly about ourselves and saying we're the best thing ever. And here's a great picture of us. Don't we look cute?
Yep.
It's like this is what you can expect at our show.
Yeah, it's show me versus tell me, right? So.
Oh, you guys,
but not
are
that we
100%.
don't look cute.
Oh,
That's true.
I would not take
Not
that from you.
I was gonna say another thing that's kind of awesome about all the guys in the band is that we're all musicians, but we're also kind of like our own little creative company or whatever. Like we all, I do a lot of the artwork for the bands. Dan does all the mixing for our stuff, and we have Chris does a lot of the videos and stuff. So like we really work on generating our own like media stuff to give out to people, like our own press kit stuff. And it's really, that seems to have been helping a ton, because like that's like you said, Peter, it's just like getting your image and your content like out on the internet and like marketing yourself and showing people like what you can do.
And not only that, but not to interrupt you, but owning what you do.
Yes.
Like my father.
Yeah, we own all the music.
Yeah, my father has records from the 60s that he doesn't fucking own. and can't even figure out how do you go about buying the rights to your own thing. It's all about ownership. And the last thing I wanted to ask you guys is okay, your stage show, when you show up, are you guys organized? You got it together? Or is this a milk crate extravaganza?
So who should be taking that question?
That's a Fern question,
that's a Fern
mostly,
question.
I think.
Yeah,
let's go into the bass player on this one.
Yeah. So hello, and that's actually kind of like self-motivated, because I feel like I missed my calling as a, I don't know, stage manager per se, because I'd always rather be the worker bee. But I'm typically at the gigs first, by choice. And I have all the gear. I have a trailer that I throw the pop-ups and all this other stuff, and now also the mixer. And I get there, and I just kind of, it's the sort of thing where maybe it's a flaw that I have. I need to be better about either delegating or directing, but it's like, I know how to do it. I can do it myself, and just get there and get it done. So we all are collaborative in terms of what we think it should look like. And as soon as I get that sort of target to shoot for, I aim and I go. So I'll get there with the gear and I'll pop everything up and get everything going. And if there's anybody else there, we'll obviously get it done. But it's organized by the simple fact that it's one person for now getting in there and doing it. And I don't mean that I'm always by myself, because I get help from the guys, but just more that I kind of took the reins on that quite happily.
Someone has to.
Yeah. So and that's and
on show day, I'll wake up to a picture from Fern giving me parking directions to a show that's like an hour and a half away.
Yeah, I love you.
And I'm like, I woke up to parking directions.
He's got like a map. It's like, okay, go here.
5
different
go
around the building 3 times and
he's
back
like
up.
Circled.
He's more confused after waking up.
And now I'm like, I don't even know what to do now.
Where am I going?
Yeah, I'm always impressed because I'm like, geez, when is sound check? But
Yeah, that's one thing, because moving it from place to place and from rehearsal studio to set up and being, and especially as you guys go into bigger gigs, where you're not bringing your PA, where you're using the house PA, you're dealing with the house techs, you're dealing with the house system, you're working as an opening band. Nothing is more valuable than not being a pain in the ass and going in there and have all your shit in looms and folds right out, and it's quick to set up and nice and easy, easy in, easy out.
And we lucked out with Fern big time. Like with anything, like I'll forget batteries because I'm just a forgetful asshole. And
he's
he's
like a
always
Mary
got
Poppins.
batteries. Yeah, it's always like, okay, if I fuck up, but Fern's got it, I think.
Nice,
I got you.
Cables, batteries.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figure my theory is so this, and hopefully I'm not belaboring this point or taking us way too far past. But so there it is. But going, so there's a couple of things at play here. There's that void of that 45 to 65, right? And we're in that realm, sort of, right, in terms of like, the appetite for this kind of thing. Growing up as musicians, I'm not sure which is proper English, us or we, but growing up as musicians, part of what motivated us to do this is seeing those concerts, those big live events that are, the top 40 cover band thing is an awesome thing in and of its own, built-in crowd or whatever. But imagine, you grew up and you're trying to be in an original band and you hope to be the next Maiden, the next Metallica, the next Journey, or whoever, that your own music and creativity spawned this amazing thing that people flock to see you for. Well, there's an opportunity in a tribute band. So for me, and I don't want to speak for anybody, I'm sure it's the same, but just speaking for myself, this for me is that opportunity I always wanted as a musician, to be able to build a bigger show that people are receiving really well. So all of these things are self-motivating, and it just happens to be that like I just really enjoy doing these little things and watching out for these little details, like, well, do we have extra batteries? Do we have cabling? All the way up through to, here's how the stage is going to look like. And, oh, this is a different venue. We have a slight reconfiguration. All these sort of things play into the opportunity to do something that I never thought I'd be able to do with guys that I'm just so lucky that they've taken me in, because I'm still the new guy, right? But I think that, and so between that, and my mentality is always go big or go bigger, right? Because the bigger it is, the more it'll be seen, the more it'll be appreciated. And why stop there, right? And then I think that
people can hear with their eyes too.
Yeah, right. And so that always looks more impressive just by being there. You feel it, it radiates also, hopefully, in the media that we put out to the internet, speaking to the fact that now we're on the internet so people can see us, and that interest for agents and whoever else is being generated. And when it comes to working with venues, I've just always been of the opinion of, I'd rather be out of everyone else's way. My main motivation for getting there first is so I can do what I have to do and then let everybody come in, so I'm one less person to trip on, and then make sure that the sound technician is happy with what they're doing and that they have what they need, the lighting, and anyone in the venue, because at the end of the day, it's not our gig, it's theirs. It's their house that we're coming into, and they're letting us doing it. So the more we can accommodate and get things out of their way, just hand them a snake and let them take care of the rest, and we'll do all the legwork for everything else. So that's kind of like part of why I do what I do.
An example, I'll bet Naveed would be paralyzed by now if it weren't for Fern joining, because he tapes down the cable. Naveed's probably slipped and hurt himself, I don't know how many times on cable, but since Fern's been in the band, he tapes them all down.
Like a Vietnamese trap.
Naveed's hopping around and he's not falling on his ass now. So that's another big,
Yeah, he's kept Naveed alive.
He thinks about things that I would just be like, oh, well, that sucks that he's tripping over cables. And then Fern's like, oh, well, why don't we just tape him down? Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I used to work when I lived in New York. When I lived in Manhattan, I did a lot of the local television events, that you do around the city, and especially a lot of Comedy Central events. We always need a band, like a band off to the side, a band to do, to play the play-ins and the play-outs, and
like
that
a little
kind of
Maiden
shit.
tribute.
Yeah, it's like a Maiden tribute, and one of this band was called the Roots, and they got their they got their spot, right, by being the band that was the least pain in the ass, right? They would roll in, have all their shit together, and they would just sit and chill, wouldn't complain about nothing. They were always ready to go, and and they made their way by being that easy to deal with band.
Yeah.
And
I always
go ahead.
I always tell the front of house guys, it's like our job is to make your job easy. Like
Yeah.
we just want to roll up, hand you a snake that's clearly labeled, and like let's just get in there and get this as quickly as
I
possible.
think it's just happenstance that what we do and how we're set up and everything lends itself to it being very easy for a venue to hook us up and make it sound good.
Yeah,
we all know what we're doing on our end, and no one has, any diva mentalities or expects the green M&Ms or whatever it is. So we're very easy to work with. And the equipment thing, as long as we have a tall drum riser for myself, we're happy.
Nice. That tall drum riser is
I'm
that.
totally kidding.
And the last thing I want to say is that that I saw all of my favorite bands in the 70s and in the 80s when it was all happening. And I saw, as I say, I saw all the best bands on the worst audio systems. Sometimes it was so horrible that you'd be like 5-6 songs into the show, you couldn't even recognize what song it was. Just bouncing around the
fun.
arena.
That's the worst.
The fucking worst. And it was the technology at the time. And a friend of mine mixed Aerosmith in the like from 75 to 79, those 4 years there. And I probably saw 10 shows that he mixed back then. And I'd say that 8 of them were horrible, and they weren't his fault as the mixer. It was the technology at the time.
Yeah.
But you got to see Aerosmith and at those shows. I mean, that whether it sounded good or not, that's great memory, I would think.
True that. But I say that because even seeing Maiden in the 80s, those rigs had a lot to be desired about. But you guys get to step up there, with your Kempers and your modern gear and your and today in the 21st century, anything that you buy off the shelf and plug in and turn the knob, everything sounds good. You have to get in the way of it to fuck it up,
And we bring our own sound guy as much as we can, who knows our stuff and knows Maiden, to be able to add that extra layer of the effects where they need to be, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and the one thing that's interesting about British heavy metal music from the 80s, especially Iron Maiden and that wave of British heavy metal that came out at that time, is that what they were doing live is they were taking all of the low frequency out of the PA, because especially with Iron Maiden, you have that very fast attack music.
Yes.
If you try to get too much low frequency in the room, it just turns into mud.
Yes.
And you lose all of the articulation. That Nico stuff. So much of that is more snare than it is kick drum coming through the mix. So much for that reason. What you gotta say about that?
Yeah, in some way, in some ways, man, like low end is the enemy. Like low end is awesome and like it feels good and stuff, but all that like subby stuff, that's what ruins everything, because it just takes all the efficiency out of the speakers, and
ruins it in your own mix too.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, for me, it's just muddies everything up, and I need to be able to hear the bass drum very clearly, or else I'm doomed to play all that Nico stuff. So I usually don't have Fern in my mix hardly at all. Like I want it there, and I like being able to hear it, but it's just the nature of the instrument when if the cab is like right next to me, it's just it's booming.
As a monitor
so
mixer for 40 years, I guarantee you all of you have a different mix.
Yeah.
Well, we don't all do in-ears, but we probably do.
That's actually part of the reason why I even bring a bass cab, because I want to have the bass cab on a stage. One, because there's a little bit element of feeling there, but I also am a big fan of people not having bass in their monitors, because it swallows up so much of everything else, and it winds up causing distortion in your ears. Like I have if I have any bass in my ears, I try to, if there's a way to EQ it to roll off all the low end, because
Yeah.
I just need to be, and there's a lot of audio files out there. It's like, oh, I've got to have my studio mix in my ears for live. Why? Have
No.
enough to keep yourself in time and in tune. That's it. Everything else
Yeah.
will be fine.
Yeah, I have like a big
Yeah.
high pass up to like 200 on my in-ear monitors. Like all that low stuff is out of there. Sorry, Fern.
No, I mean,
we have ambient mics too.
Exactly. And no, I'm definitely, there's no offense taken there. I would probably recommend that, because I've told people in the band, take the bass out or roll that low end off, because otherwise it's going to fight with everything else and likely eat everything up. And you're going to cause so much distortion in your ears. It's going to be, hard to discern what you're hearing.
Maybe I should do that.
yeah,
It
another
helps.
thing
Instead
too
of
is
taking you out completely, maybe I could just have you
Roll it
learn
off.
my mix, but take off the low
you could
end. I
also
never even thought about that.
copy his channel, so there could be more than one bass channel. So you could have one that's coming to you rolled off, as he said, and one that's coming to you straight.
Yep,
You
that's
don't
true.
you don't have to all take the same one if you have enough channels on the console.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Glad we had this talk
Yeah.
on
You
your
know,
podcast.
we used to do it old school with a Y cable. Just have a couple inputs, because especially with a lead vocal where you're sending a vocal somewhere on stage and the drummer or somebody says, oh, could you take this and take this out of that? Well, how the fuck are you going to do that without affecting it for the main guy down stage center? You got to have copied another channel of it, and
Right.
distribute that around. And listen, in the future, if you guys ever have any gear questions or whatever, or a show scenario thing, feel free. I'm talking Fern, of course. Hit me up, and guys, it's been great talking to you. Is there anything else that you want to get out? Let's talk about where your next couple shows are.
Next show is June 17th.
This will be out before then.
Yeah, hope so.
Yep.
At Craft House Stage and Grill in Pittsburgh.
Nice, man. You guys are going up to Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
we've been there a couple times. We played the Hard
Pittsburgh.
Rock before. We've been to PA for a couple other venues, but this is a very great venue that we've heard a lot about, and we'll be there on June 17th. And then after that, we'll be, can we announce it since it's not formally announced?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. June 30th at the State Theater in Falls Church, Virginia.
World premiere.
World premiere.
State Theater sounds like a good gig.
It's
It
pretty
is.
awesome.
There's two
Yeah.
great theaters in this area, the State Theater in Falls Church and Tally Ho, which we've played at probably more than any other venue in Leesburg, Virginia. And they have tributes all the time. And we are at Tally Ho in August. But July 14th is the Quiet Riot gig, we're calling it. There's some other national acts on that. You guys remember something Pool?
All I just remember was Quiet Riot. I don't know if anything.
Well, so there's 2 nights though. We're playing the first night, I believe, the Friday night, and then there's also the Saturday night. It's just a huge list of bands.
Have you guys done shows with other tribute bands as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah, a lot, so many.
Mm-hmm.
My next
AC/DC.
podcast is with a KISS group that they're on the West Coast.
Yeah, I don't think we've done with a KISS group yet.
Is it Little Kiss?
No, I wish it was.
There's Little Ozzy.
No, not Little KISS. Now that I'm on the spot, I can't remember their names, but that's
we
a
play
lot
with
of,
Black
that's a lot of
Sabbath
work.
tributes. We play with Pantera tributes. We play with AC/DC tributes. Motley
Metallica
Crue
tributes.
Metallica.
Judas Priest, like I said.
Thin Lizzy.
There was a Thin Lizzy
Thin
tribute.
Lizzy.
Yeah,
That's
they were
right.
cool.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
awesome.
Black.
Oh,
I think they
God.
called themselves Black Rose.
Black Rose, yeah, they're from Baltimore.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're cool.
awesome.
Guys, I tell you what, in my lifetime, I hope I see it to come to attrition, but I don't like. I do a show at the LA Forum a couple times a year, right? I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's at an iconic venue in Inglewood, Los Angeles, right? And you walk in, there's all the shows that ever been there on the Forum are on the wall. It's all these iconic shows. Is Bolognese what we have? We have 2 meal tickets, and it's going to be one of the two.
Hey, maybe we can do a return thing, and I can point out every show that I've done in
Oh my God! Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Rick James, bitch. These kids, the sevenths. But standing in the forum during a show when it's happening, it's 20,000 plus people. It's like, I'm looking around like, why does this have to be 10 shitty pop groups? Why can't it be 5 good tribute bands? Why can't you get a handful of really good tribute bands and make that a solid arena package show? Maybe not next week, but I'm just saying that I have some kind of a vision for that in the future, that and especially the fact that what we saw with Def Leppard, Motley Crue selling out fucking stadiums last year, it's for sure that people want to go out and hear this music because it's nostalgia. The moment
I already have a
hear
title. I already have a title for it.
Let's hear
Sorry
it.
to interrupt.
No.
The Next Best Thing tour.
The Next Best Thing tour.
I don't know.
No, I love it. I think it's perfect. But
I mean, some of these, and we've had this talk with some people on the internet, and some of these bands aren't going to exist anymore soon.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time. And if we're gonna carry the flame for Iron Maiden, who knows?
One of them's Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
Iron Maiden.
exactly. So I mean, that kind of is looming in the future, and it's like, maybe we will be one of the few that are doing this for real, and that people will really start missing out on it because they won't have any option for seeing them anymore. So it's going to happen with a lot more bands at some point soon.
Yeah, it's funny. I do 1 tour a year, and we have a roadie band, and I bought a Steinberger bass just to take on the road, right? And we have 1 day off in Chicago every year. We run a studio, and we go there, and me and my buddy play "Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner," and everyone else looks at us like we're from outer space, So it's nice. It's nice to spend some time with a group of gentlemen that could dig playing the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, and what it takes and all about. Guys, it's been great talking to you. I love your band. Love your band. I hope to see you live sometime, God willing.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And
for now, you have videos on the internet.
Yeah, for now, I'll keep enjoying you on the internet, man.
Sounds good.
Guys, thanks again for taking the time and coming out, man.
Thanks.
It's fun. It's
Thanks,
awesome.
man.